everyone, and welcome to Fika. Our guest today is local Fonthill author Jolie P. Hoang. Jolie's story, Anchorless, follows her family's life before and after their escapes and attempted escapes from Vietnam in the early 1980s. Uniquely told from her father's perspective, Anchorless is insightful, reflective, and the perfect example of how fact and imagination can blend to create understanding. I know it has assisted in mine. Speaking to Jolie was an honor, and I am grateful for the opportunity. Hi, Jolie, and welcome to Fika.
Hi, Vicky. Thank you. I'm glad to be on your show.
Well, I'm glad to have you on the show and that I get an opportunity to read your book and to meet you and speak with you today. There's going to be a lot of chatting, but before we get started and too deep into the past, which is what Anchorless is about, could you please tell me a little about who Jolie is today?
First, I think, can I explain a bit about Jolie, the name Jolie?
Sure, you can. You say whatever you want to.
Jolie is my nickname. At home, all my siblings address me as Jolie, and I decided to use it as my pen name.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I have a different name at the college where I teach. I teach mathematics at the Niagara College, and I'm entering my 24 years now.
Oh my goodness, that's quite a commitment. And do you have the patience you had 24 years ago, Jolie?
I think the patient increase its level according to the year. I think the more you teach, I think the more you become patient with your career and your student. I think
then the more patience grows.
Yes, yeah, and I think Jolie is very special to me because my father gave me the nickname Jolie. And at one time, I did ask him, why did you give me the name Jolie? So he said Jolie is for happiness, for cheerfulness. And when I opened the dictionary and I checked the meaning of Jolie, I think it has a different meaning. But in my mind, I always thought it's happiness, cheerfulness, and when my father said that, he gave me a big smile. So I always remember that. So when writing Anchorless and this book is for my father, so I decided to choose the pen name Jolie, and the P is for my Vietnamese name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But at the college, I think all my students know me by Amy Hoang. So when I first
you are
started,
a woman of many different sides.
When I first, it's hard to pronounce my name, right? So I don't want to put anybody through the agonies of trying to pronounce my first name correct. So I thought, why don't I pick an English name? So the name Amy didn't come until I got a job at Niagara College. Yeah, so I got a job there in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
So that name Amy is with me for so long. But when I write a book, I think Amy is more like a different side.
Right. You're going back to your roots.
Yeah, Amy is more like a math name. And this book is so special, so I decided to use Jolie as the pen name for the book.
Because this book is very much about your father and your connection with him and your experiences, and that's such a lovely meaning. I'm glad I get to call you Jolie because it's so nice. I'm going to take that meaning too, okay? I don't care what happened when you looked it up.
Thank you.
I like the happy and hopeful and it's just lovely. So, when we talk about this book bringing you closer to your father, Anchorless, you chose a. Wait, I just went completely off script. Okay. So perhaps before we get started, I'm concerned with my questions, not the people out there. They haven't read the book possibly yet. Could you tell them a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. Um, the story obviously is about my father. If you take a look at the image at the front, is my father image right at the front of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love the way they illustrate when it's faded. It's not very clear, but it's faded.
No, I can see that. I didn't
Yeah.
notice it, but now that you're pointing it out, I can see that and the symbolism behind it.
Yeah, so because it's about my father, and he died during an attempt to escape Vietnam. And this book is also about grief and about regret that expressed and felt by both the living and by the person who died. The story details the events of the three escapes that he planned and why he died and his desire to live beyond death and or between life and death, I should say that, to still be able to surround his family and communicate with his family and try to even take care of his family. Because I think it's more about unfulfilled dream, unfulfilled responsibilities.
And possibly regrets.
Yes.
You're going to read a little bit about the book, from the book, but before you do that, I just wanted to bring in the fact that you did choose a very different perspective of writing this book. Instead of from your eyes, it was through your father's spirit's eyes. And I was going to ask you why you did that. But I also think, having read it, that it's something we should all consider is how we would see our lives and our actions afterwards. It's a very deep thing. So go ahead and tell us why you chose that perspective.
Yeah. So um, my father died when his dream and his new life with freedom in a better country, the dream that he risked his life for, was about to come true for him and his family. Besides that, the moment he died, there was no one around him. Like his children were far away in the different continents of the world. What was the best way to express the agony, the anguish, the sorrow that a father whose life purpose centered around his wife and his children, his selflessness, his devotion to his family, had to stop the moment he died? I thought my father would feel tormented by his unfulfilled dreams and his responsibilities. I think nothing could express all that better than the voice of the father, the dead person himself. Besides that, I always feel my father's spirit is present around me. My father died in 1985. It has been 35 years of losing him. To me, it is a lifetime of lost times. I often imagined and created an illusion that he was living around me still. So I thought of what he would advise me when I face challenges in life. I found his voice often echoed in my mind.
What would
So,
he tell you to do?
yes, advise me,
Right.
encourage me during difficult times. And so when I put the writing, so writing in his perspective as his ghost, I think it's just an instinct. Just naturally happened when I started to write Anchors.
And geez, Jolie, I was afraid this was going to get too emotional for you, and now I'm going to cry, because it is just you. I think the passage that you decided to read is perfect now. So, did you want to go ahead and read that?
Yes. All right. So I can I explain a tiny bit before I
Oh,
read?
yes.
Okay.
You
So
take it
this
away.
chapter is chapter 9. It's about Gongseung Island. On this Gongseung Island is a tiny island near Vietnam. Okay, my father died and got buried on this island for like a year. Um, right. Not being able to free my soul from this island, I came to observe that it was the most regretful and sorrowful time of my life as a ghost. I wandered the stretches of the isolated beaches of this island, listening to the sound of the roaring waves from dusk to dawn. I felt the loneliness of the sound. I also expressed the sadness of its surroundings. Elsewhere on the earth, the beach could have human footprints. Seagulls flew above the waves to search for food. The oceans and their beaches had their life. The sound of the ocean could soothe a human mind. Here, on this island, there was isolated and nameless tombstone, fruitless and broken palm trees. The sound of the waves beating the sand on this island expressed the regret of mistakes that could not be undone. The sound of the waves exposed sorrow that could never be cured. I named this island the regretful lands with never-ending unhappiness. I heard the weary cries of many dead people who had died unjust deaths. Their souls longed for the living to come to this island to discover and collect their corpses. I dreamt of proper burial ceremonies close to their living families. My flesh quickly decomposed into the best compost to feed the land. Grass started to grow on top of my grave and quickly spread to become a vast and tall grass field. The grass grew so tall that no one from a distance could imagine or even recognize that it has once been a burial site of my lonely soul.
Just beautiful.
Thank you.
Very, very beautiful. And proof positive that the perspective you chose was the right one. What was your process during this time to pull, like, this is a story that you kept within for a very long time. And to pull that out of yourself, what did that take?
Yeah, so the process of writing this book
Right.
is actually taking me a long time. Yeah. So if talking about the process, because English is my second language, and I thought I often thought that I could only do mathematics. When I tried to write, I had a feeling that each of my sentences seemed to come out crooked. So I remember I had to overcome that fear and self-doubt. And then I remind myself that don't worry about getting it right. In mathematics, you just have to, you worry about getting it right in mathematics, but in writing, you don't have to worry about that. You just focus on getting it written.
Right. It's
So
two very different processes.
yeah, so I wrote the first two chapters in 2014.
Right.
Uh, and then I stopped. Then I stopped. Then I stopped writing. Um, uh, when I first wrote the book, it has different titles. Um, I think the what impacted me the most is when I went to California in April of 2015. All families, my family's brothers, sister gathered for my father's last funeral. because when he first passed away, he got buried on this island, and I want to put to me, in that island by himself, uh, without proper grave, it must be so lonely and sad.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then after that, he got buried in Dalat. When all of us, all of his children, my mom was in Canada at that time, and then my mom's got buried in California in U.S. So our brothers moved to the U.S. So my father's children divided in the continent of Canada and America. Why he was in the grave by himself in Vietnam.
Right,
So
right.
in
It didn't make sense to
2015,
you.
yeah. So it's more like it's not a closure. So we always have to think about. It's hard to not to be able to go to his grave for a memorial for anything like that.
Well, I'm just going to skip back a little bit because I think it's important to understand that you were already in Canada when the first part of the family went ahead to Canada. So you weren't there when he passed away. And so you didn't have anything physical to hold on to or to make that real for you
Exactly.
until he was brought to California and buried there for the third time, right?
Yes. Yeah. So when his remain was brought to Orange County to be buried together with my mother's, and then all brother sister gather for this significant event. We talk more about the past. I remember I left California feeling quite sentimental, like emotional.
You would, yes.
Yeah, at that time, what hit me most was the reality. Uh, it was 2015, so my father passed away. Like at that time, it was 30 years. So it was his third funeral, but the first for me to attend.
Right, right. The
So
first time. Yeah.
it's to me it's a closure. So and then it's sad. Uh, it's ironic because he finally arrived in
In the land
foreign
of
soil.
opportunity.
Yes, but not to live as he had envisioned, but to be buried.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that I must hurry and write because all the details, the chapters, the events were circling in my head. All the thoughts, the planning of the book were all there.
And you just
Tangling,
needed to get them out.
yes, tangling sometime in my mind, and it bothered me that I did not have time to let all of that thought, sentence, events, details to flow out on papers. I feel like they tangle up and trap at a thick wall, and that thick wall is my fear of writing the English language, like
Right.
sitting down and just to get that out and just write. And then I was teaching full time as well. I went to California in the end of April of 2015, and May and June were the month that I had to teach for that semester. So
Right.
those 2 months, I remember my mind was just kept thinking about it. And then luckily, I was able to spend almost the entire summer living in St. John, Newfoundland.
Lucky
So
girl.
that time I was able to write more. Somehow I confronted my fear and I just kept writing. Then thought idea just came and the sentence just flowed. I have to describe it as like magic. But I think it's a miracle that I could write so much during that time.
So, if anybody is they have their own story inside them that they haven't shared, and they want to write it out even for themselves, just to get that tangling out of their head, what would you advise? Like, what did you learn from your experiences that you might be able to help them with?
Oh, So
Just do it?
um, I think is finding the courage. Yeah. So if finding the courage to confront the inner struggle,
Right.
then giving it a voice to be heard, not by anyone else first, because it's difficult to talk about, right? Then you don't. It's difficult to talk about. It's probably you don't want anyone to hear about it, or
Well, it makes it
it's
real, right?
yes, yeah. But the voice created a voice to be heard, not by anybody else, but by the person's very own inner self.
Mm-hmm.
So I think expression in writing has a different angle. Well, we can reread what we have written, we recall and we remember what we seem to forget. Then in the process, we can analyze or question our own thoughts. Having our feelings imprinted in writing on papers, I think it's like a painting or a photograph. So when
No,
you look at a
agree.
painting or a photograph, right, you want to study it
Mm-hmm.
and to examine it to ourselves. So in that process, I believe that there will be a possibility of self-discovery or even self-healing.
Oh,
Or
definitely, I would
yeah,
think healing.
yeah. May can I put more descriptive word into it? Okay,
Yes.
so to me, finding something difficult to express, or I think mostly about deep and wounded emotion or feeling. If I could visualize it, I would say a hole in the heart or a dark space that takes up a significant part of the heart. And
Mm-hmm.
then in that dark space, there is a development of an expansion of a missing unknown. And I think we need to solve for it. And writing is a powerful tool to get to that unknown. And beside the courage, I think we need the discipline. I think the discipline is the important step to find out and to solve and to find the problem to the solution, to find the solution to the problem that we have to face.
Did you say I'm going to write this much at this time and just sit down and sort of force yourself to do it? Like, did you have a physical discipline behind the writing as well at that point?
Yes, I do. Um, I have to have a set time to write, and I think there is the motivation to that as well, right? So the motivation, I think, is come from the external factor because my daughters uh, asked me question me about their grandfather and their aunt. So every time they ask me that question, I
Right.
know that it's not easy to answer. It's not something that very easy to for me to. It's not a quick answer.
Right.
Yeah, so I often pause and I just say a simple sentence. Yeah, but then I know that I look into their eyes and I know there's an intense curiosity there. And then I thought, um, I better write it down because if I don't, how the better way to explain to my children is the best that I put them all in writing, because then at some point in their life, they probably will open the book and they probably read my writings. Because one thing that I realize is, when I look at my father's and my mother's picture,
Right.
I'm number 6 in the family. There are 10 children.
Are you the third daughter?
I am the third daughter because there are
Okay, you were pretty
four
hard on
daughters.
yourself in this book. No.
Four daughters. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I review myself in the book. Um, yeah. So when I look at my father's and my mother's images, photographs, and I try to visualize their life, and I said, um, it's like I open a book and I don't know how to read it. It's
Right,
like in a different
right.
language, because my father passed away when I was a teen. Then, when still a teen, I think I spent so much less time with him. Like the last time is way higher than the time that I spent with him and with my mother. And my mother didn't say a lot about her life or uh,
Well, because she had her own hurts and her
yes,
own feelings, right?
exactly.
And was
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of living what you were living as far as getting that story out.
yes. And then I thought, then if I don't give my daughters the answers now, then if I don't write it down, where if I have found it so hard to tell to give them the answer, to sit down and then have a conversation with them about this, then I think it's better to write it down on
Well,
paper.
then they can read it, they can absorb it, they have a better understanding of your feelings behind it, and then it's easier to have a conversation about it, right?
Yes, yeah. Mm.
Because that background is there. So, yes, so Anchorless is the story of your family's experiences through your father's eyes during the Vietnam War. And that was 20 years long. So your only experience of life as a child is during war and the unrest after it finished. Why did you choose to call it Anchorless? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so the title Anchorless has three meanings. Yeah, so first of all, the book, when I first wrote the book, it has a different title. But not until I completed the book and like years after that I thought of the title Anchorless. If you take a look at the front, on my father's shoulder, you probably noticed the shape of the anchor faded away.
Right, right, yeah.
Yeah. So meaning number one is my father was the anchor of his family.
Right.
He navigated the family through difficult times in a war-torn country. He had a clear vision for his children's future, apart from life after the war in Vietnam after 1975. He had the courage to make life-change decisions. So when he died, I felt like I have lost the anchor. So that meaning number one. Um, Meaning number two, it described the boat he escaped in and
Mm-hmm.
lost the anchor at the spot where the Mekong River meets the Pacific Ocean. The detail of losing the anchor at the start of the journey foreshadows that the boat would not be able to arrive at its destination.
Because
So
that
that,
was actually a belief system um,
yes, yeah,
in Vietnam.
yes. And meaning number three is the I think the word anchorless to me implies the drifting state or unstable object. Uh, do you think so too?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no.
like something drifting.
I'm sorry. I was just listening to you. I didn't want to interrupt. You were being so
Okay,
profound. No,
and and
it
and
definitely means that.
yeah, and I want to talk about my mind. I want to. I think my mind had been drifting in questioning his death. I often ask the why this and that. We often, if we grieve the loss of someone, and if we are suffering inside, we often ask why and why this and that happened. But but we don't accept the answer for that why. It doesn't matter. During that process, I think if someone tries to explain to us the why, we don't usually listen to them.
Well, and I
Only
think
we
all our
realize that for
whys are
himself. Yes,
different.
Yes, yeah.
depending on who we are. So they may not actually have the answer to our specific why.
Yes, and then I feel that my mind was in that drifting state,
Mm-hmm.
because I questioned that why was he taken from his family too soon? To me, it's like before his time, before his dream,
Right.
before
Why did
our
he get
dream.
taken before he got to live his dream?
Yes, before our dreams to reunited, and at that time, the anticipation for our reunion was so hopeful and so near.
It kept you
So
going, right? In a new
yeah,
country.
yeah. In searching for that answer, I realized that there were times that I set myself adrift in grief, going on in circle without being able to set my mind to stabilize, until I found that it was all about the acceptance of fate. And to me, it's more like I have to discover that lost anchor.
Well, and I know at the end of your book, you thanked mathematics. And I think you found that as a discipline, it also helped to, you know, keep your brain logical and to point, and gave you a firmness when you would become anchorless, right?
Yes, yeah.
It was part of your process. So okay, we don't want to reveal too much about the book, but we do want to say that it covers, like you said, the three escapes
Yes,
from Vietnam. And once again, this is a story told through your father's eyes, so we don't always get a chance to see. You paint yourself, and it's always the third daughter is crying, or the third daughter is. And I'm sure you were a very nice third daughter, Jolie. But we don't always see from your eyes, your perspective as a child growing up in this, and why it was so important for a parent to get you somewhere safe. There was still family meetings, discipline. You still went to school. There would be treats, but is it okay to tell us a little bit about that? Are you feeling
for
your experiences as a child growing up
uh,
in war?
I I had to. The first thing I wanted to say is I think my parents try their best
Oh, yes, definitely.
to shelter us. Yes, to shelter us from the war. Um, my father started um, building the city of Hoang, Bumatuk, and I was born, I think, after he established his life on that land for 5 or 6 years, and I think I only stayed on that location of Vietnam for like 4 or 5 years.
Right.
So the one event that I remember very clearly was we at night we often had to be aware that we would be waking up by our father and by our mother, and we had to run through a cave near the I mean like I think we had to go to a little passage, and then we hid under a cave, underground cave. I think it's more like near the house, and I remember my father would guard the door, and my mom would try to comfort us with a little white lamp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's when the bombing occurred, or so I remember very briefly about that. And then when my father and my mother chose the city of Dalat to move there,
Right.
I remember once he told me that Dalat is the city that got the least impacted from war, because it's above it's on the mountain, right? So it's 1,000 meters above the sea level. It's a very beautiful plateau. The weather is very nice, and I think the location of Dalat somehow experienced the least impact of war. And war only happened at Dalat in 1975, when the fall of Saigon and the North Vietnamese completely took over South Vietnam.
And so you
Then
had some breathing space.
yes, so if I had to go through war, I think my parents shield us from that. They did their best to protect us. And when we live in Dalat, I thought it was peaceful, because our house at that time was located near the temple, and I hear temple bell ringing almost every other day, or every 3 days, or sometime during Lunar New Year celebration, and then people went to temple to pray.
So there
And
was a normalcy.
yes,
The same
and
as
then
going to school or any of those things that gave
yeah,
a certain degree of comfort.
yes, and my father got a car, and he usually put us all on his car. His 4x4 is a Jeep,
Right?
and he drove us to visit our grandmother, our uncles, visit the ocean. So I think there were times that it was peaceful, and
Right. Well, this is why I asked, because I mean, it definitely gave the feeling that all those things that could possibly be given to you as a family was. There was they took great time and energy to make those things right and peaceful for you. And that is why the escapes themselves seem so chaotic, because there was so much planning to make you feel safe,
yeah,
right?
yes. I think the one event I also remember, and I think I detailed it in the book. It's 1975, when Dalat had to be surrendered to the communist soldier. Then I think we had to flee the city,
Right.
and we got to stay at the temple. Belongs to my grand uncle. He's a chief monk at that temple, and we went there for vacation, and then we went there to avoid the war. Uh, then I thought it's more like a vacation, because it's so isolated, and um, when I think all the fighting, the yeah, I actually I have to say that there's one time war arrived at the temple as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to run to a cave, and then bullet, and I heard fighting, like bullet the flying above our head, cracking the rock and everything. Yeah, but I was little, so I I think my older brother and sister would feel more fear. And when my father and my mom and all brothers sisters surrounding me, I feel safe. So
You had the older siblings and your mom
yes,
and dad there, and
especially with my father, he was very comforting, and he showed his courage in front of us. And uh, and I think all that is more to make I feel secure. Like even in a war, we still feel secure.
Yeah, because your father's there and he is your strength and really at that point in your life everything, right? Like
Yes.
your mother and your father, that is your world, and your brothers and sisters. So you felt secure within that world even though the outside world wasn't all that secure. Which is a good thing, right? It's a nice thing, but made you miss him all the more. So then you so you had the war ended, in a way, and you were still fighting a personal one though with the new administration. And your father decided that it was time to make the move. You go into that in the book, and we want people to definitely hear it from your words that you took time to think about and to write so eloquently. But you did leave with your older brothers and sisters, without your father and younger siblings and mother. And we see you leaving. I know you said you have another project in the works, but can you tell us a little bit about how that leaving made you feel and your experiences?
Oh, my experience for leaving
For
Vietnam. So in writing,
saying goodbye to your mother and father and leaving with your siblings to,
at the time that I escaped Vietnam
yeah,
in 1983. Yeah.
right.
So that the plan was all of us would escape, but at the end, it's just only 6 of us and my sister-in-law, so it makes 7 of us escape on that trip. So the trip for us, I had to say that if my trip is only one among many,
Different
many,
experiences.
many people who escaped Vietnam at that time. So between 1978 and 1988
It was
is
yeah, it was called the decade of the boat people, right?
yes, yeah,
And so we sat in front of our television sets and we watched these happenings, but until I read this book, I don't really think I understood what it meant to these families, this freedom.
So for my trip, if I compare to others, I'm talking about the trip I escaped in myself. I'm
Right.
not talking about the third escape when my father was in. So to me, I think is quite peaceful. We were very lucky. When we went into the ocean and we met other boats, but then I mean, I was seasick.
Well,
I think I remember I was just like feeling seasick and fear, but somehow my because of all of us were together and what my father was telling me to remember, but one thing I remember my father did for me was he the white sugar,
right?
the sugar that we had,
Yeah.
I call white sugar because in Vietnam we have like brown sugars and all that.
Yeah, no, I call it white
Yeah,
sugar too.
yeah. The white sugars in Vietnam is rare, right? So, but he he poured lemon into it. He squeezed the lime into it, and then he dried them and make them into like a chunk.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, and then he actually gave me like a big bag of it, and he told me that to keep it in my little luggage. I have a little luggage on my shoulder,
Right.
so I put it in there, and that's all the thing. But I just wanted to say this detail. So then he said if you got seasick, you take a little bit of this and put it in your mouth. So it actually helped a lot.
It did? It did work?
Yes, yeah. It helped with the seasick. So I take a little bit of that sugar, the thing that he dries, sugar and lemons mix.
Mm-hmm.
He dried them into a little ball. So I take a bit of it, I put it in my mouth, and it helped me a lot with the seasick. Feeling
That's good
sick
to know.
and vomiting, and then I feel comfort too, and I said, "Oh, my father did it." So it is a good thing that he did. And then I had to say that we were very lucky because 9 days on the ocean, and the weather of May is I think the Pacific Ocean is calm during the month of
It's
May.
not like the autumn.
Yeah, it's not like, but when it comes into June or July, it will be very rough. So May, especially May, is a very good month, and we met the we went to the oil rig. We met I remember we docked our boat at an oil rig.
Right.
And then they gave us some, the people who work on that oil rig gave us water, fresh water and milk.
Oh.
Yeah. And you know that my older brother navigated the boat.
Right. He put it all
Yes.
together and he was
He
left with,
navigated
he
the
left
boat
school to do that. Yeah.
with my my uncle, a cousin of my father. And somehow I don't remember very clearly, but we decided not to dock at that oil rig, and we just drove the boat all the way to Singapore. And in Singapore, they pulled us out into the ocean, and they said they don't accept refugee anymore, and they show us a way to go all the way down to Indonesia, because at that time Indonesia developing a refugee camp and start taking refugee.
Right.
So you know that Hong Kong, Malaysia, Thailand are the countries they set up refugee camp. But Singapore already closed their border to the refugee, and we avoid the Thailand, the Gulf of Thailand, because it was really bad around that area. So I know that it's
for
really
pirates?
pirate, for killing, for murder.
Okay.
All that, it was really bad around that area. So,
and then if you were that old, like how old was your oldest brother?
Oh, my brother was only 18.
Yeah.
He's very smart though. He's very talented and very smart.
Well, and took on
like
so much responsibility.
Yeah, he's like my father. Like I think he. Whenever I look at my brother, I think of my father right away. Yeah, so he was really smart, very
and responsible.
Intelligent. The way he handled the boat at that time with my uncle. So and my uncle has experience navigating a boat and ship. So together they knew that they sketched the compass and calculate the sea waterway so that they don't get near Thailand ocean near Thailand. So
Right,
I
right.
think we met a Malaysian boat, but they were so very good to us. They just they gave us water and show us where to go. Don't go to certain island near certain island where we probably will get tangled uh, with hidden sand, you know. So then, so we continue on all the way to Indonesia, and we went to Singapore first, and then they pulled us out, and then I remember the Coast Guard tied our boat to theirs and said, "You cannot go here. You have to continue going." So we went all the way to Indonesia, and they welcomed us because at that time Indonesia just opened their border for the refugee,
So
and
they,
they have so many islands that they pick an island and then they accept the refugee and put all the refugee there. So it was already established for 3 or 4 years, I'm not sure. So when we went there, um, I remember uh, they took us to a village first,
mm-hmm.
and the people in the village were so nice, and they fed us with rice and give us a place to stay. Uh, uh, Divide all the boat people into among houses, the village houses, and each the family help us with meal. And we don't understand the language, but we see the kindness in all the whatever they gave us.
So you
Yeah,
had a very, very positive experience compared to many.
yeah. And then yes, and then we went to, and then after that they took us to the refugee camp.
Right.
Yeah, so the process of leaving Vietnam and then got to the refugee camp, my trip comparing to other, when I look back and read all the history, then I think my is okay. But then,
There was a lot of thought and planning that went into it, though, by your
yes,
father and your
exactly.
brother and your uncle,
Yes,
and
yeah,
it wasn't. It was a very planned trip
yeah,
compared
yes.
to
But then
others. Yeah.
I think all of us as a refugee, we all had a sad story, bad experience. So whatever, sometimes I thought whatever I went through, uh, and then I compared to what my father went through, you know, so it's a complete opposite.
Yes, the two
So
different experiences, and I don't want to get into the your father's experience with your mother's and your younger siblings because that is in the book.
yeah,
And I want you people to go out and get the book, okay? So I'm not telling you here. So no, it was almost like that shield of love that went through all the planning followed you through the trip, right?
yes, yeah. So that's one thing that making me more regretful, more. I think at some point I was a bit angry as well.
That he didn't come then.
Yes, that during that trip with us, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
wanted to say, did that ever, but I mean, I didn't want to go there, but since you brought it up, I can see how that would be a question that even went through its angry phase in your mind.
yes,
So,
so
but you answered those questions for yourself speculatively in the book.
yeah, I think this book is about finding your own answer, like
Mm-hmm.
find a solution for your grief, for your loss. Um, and when I don't mention my trip in the book because my father wasn't there to
Yeah,
see
no,
it.
you're seeing it through his eyes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, but I'm just a very curious person, so, I wanted I wanted to follow the story through that point. It is, this book is very informative as to what life in Vietnam was like, from a personal experience. And I think personal experiences are so much more important than just reading what somebody thinks happened. So it's important on that fact. And it's also important as a way to heal yourself when you can't speak to the person, when you don't have that closure. Right, Jolie?
Yes, and I believe that grief doesn't just feel by the person or the living person, because part of grief is about the person who died as well.
I think
Because
that's
if you have that unfulfilled dream, and you die suddenly, and you die in the circumstances that you don't want to die. Like, I'm a parent now,
and you
and
can't imagine
I'm a
leaving.
parent for 31 years. So then, as when I mature as a parent, I look at my children. They are my everything. But what happened if I have to pass on tomorrow? So what would I do? My immediate thought would be about my children.
Well, and I think what we didn't mention before is that you also lost a younger sister in that escape. So
Yes.
that, if you were the person leaving and feeling responsible, would be a great burden as well.
Yeah, I mentioned about my younger sister in the book.
Yeah, you mentioned in the book. I mean, we haven't mentioned in this discussion,
Yeah.
but you mentioned it in the book. Yes.
Um, is another loss, another loss. So it's not just my father, my younger sister. My younger sister and we happen to be very close. I am 10 years older than her. So when I was 10, she was born, and I was so happy because there's only 4 daughters in the family, right? So I'm the third one, and I love to have a younger daughter, a younger sister to play with, because I have 3 younger brothers.
Yeah,
And
and they're no fun. It was a win for you to get a sister. And I
uh,
think
I took
at
care of her. Yeah, I took care of her. So
yeah, no, at that age, it's almost like you've graduated from dolls, right? And then you have this real living
yes,
little person to take care of. And I think that's almost a magical age difference because of that for
yeah. And
girls.
then I think I had a really hard time. I remember back then, a really hard time. So for my younger sister, I had another essay devoted to her. I wrote for her as well, but I just don't know where to put it yet. Either in my next book, or I'm not sure. So
Um, yeah, no, that's, I mean, you may even want to extend this book at some point. I've talking to authors. You people do all kinds of strange things, Jolie. So rewrite
yeah,
and yeah, take your time and decide where you want to put it because it's a very close to you thing, right?
yeah. So I don't know if can I share this?
You can share whatever you want.
When I start writing, I discover a passion in writing.
You got hooked.
Yeah, I got hooked into it, and I think it's a totally different thinking, a totally different process,
It's an
and I can be more
observance.
free. Yeah, I can be more free. In mathematics, you have to be restricted to certain steps, and then you follow the formulas. You can be creative in mathematics because If you be creative in mathematics, it's only to think that mathematics is easy and try to get it and practice it. You cannot imagine mathematics. I don't think so. But for
Yeah, but
yeah,
that was a safe place for you for a long time.
yeah,
You
because
weren't ready
then
to explore your emotions.
yeah, and I just do math focus on my career, and but for writing, I think I can be more free. I can be more expressive. And if because while writing Anchorless, I know the style is like telling a story from a voice of a dead person, and then the regretful spirit, right, remain on earth and fell by his children. Then I think the narrative should express the melancholy, and the flow of the sentence is soft. I want to put a softness to it. I want to put it like a whisper with a sorrowful blend. And I had to realize that if a person, a regretful spirit, a lonely spirit, living between life and death, like I imagine that my father could see me, but I cannot see him. And he wanted to talk to me, and he probably tried to tell me, but I cannot hear his actual voice. Right, so that's why in writing, I can be more creative by saying, okay, I put less dialogue into it, because the lonely spirit, the lonely ghost could express his sentiments to himself,
So it's
and through that voice, through that writing, I think the reader will kind of realize that a lonely ghost spirit talking to himself.
Oh no, they definitely do. You get that sense of incompleteness and unfulfillment, and it makes you wonder if you were him. It takes you to the next step of wondering if you were him. What would your regret? How would you see your life? How would you explain it to yourself? How? Because we make so many decisions in the moment with what we have, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And they don't always end up being the perfect decisions, but we did make them for a reason. And if we don't get the opportunity to explain that to the people we made those decisions for. It's sad.
Yeah, I agree.
So yes, you did. I just wanted to say, I think writing allows you to explore freely to find the answer, and mathematics is more a specific direct route, so you don't let your mind dance.
Mathematics is like a right or wrong.
Right.
Get to the right answer. Right or wrong. But the writing,
and it's just
not about right or wrong. Yeah.
no. It's about just getting the ideas out there and writing the book that you need to have, and sharing it with people and having them find out they needed that book too. So there is a almost poetic prose to your writing, and you did there's a poem actually in the book which you're going to read to us later because you refused to sing it with your guitar.
Yeah, I someday, Vicky.
Yes.
I will come to you. We will have coffee.
And you will sing me the song?
I will bring the guitar, and then I will sing for you the song. Okay.
See, COVID just has to leave, okay? Because there's so many things I need to do, and hearing that song is one of them. So
that's our second. So we have to keep that.
Okay. That is it's our special thing, Jolie. I don't want to share it. So you. So there is this poetic, and you have written that poem. Now, did you have any training, or have you written other poetry, or did you just get the bug and go with it?
I think you put the right word into it.
I
You know,
find them occasionally.
yes, why I was writing, it was interesting because I look back a lot. Like I like not looking back at my feelings about what happened in the family. I also look back at the time when I first came to Canada.
Yeah, we haven't
And
even discussed that yet.
yeah, honestly, I wish then I told myself that I wish I could major in writing back then. But we have to be realistic, right? So we, as a
Right,
language
so let's
immigrant,
paint that
right?
picture. You came to Canada with your siblings, and there was like no parents to. So you needed to you needed to get it together to get them over here, right?
Yes. So we uh, uh, yeah, the first thing we had to get over is to master the language, because I think without the foundation of the English language, I don't we don't get anywhere. So we concentrate on study a lot. Like study was just part of our life. Like the word study kind of imprinted in onto my forehead,
Yeah,
like I had to
learn
study all the
English.
time, study English, and
Now, I don't want to interrupt, but did you stay with a sponsor family? Did you stay in a home with your siblings? How did that?
yeah. So uh, if I talk about that, can I go back a bit when at
Yes,
the
yes.
time when I was in
I just want to
refugee
give
camp?
them a picture
Yeah,
of.
yeah. So when we came to the refugee camp,
Mm-hmm.
at that time, there are like certain months. Like I believe that every month there would be either American, Canadian, or Australian delegations.
Right.
They will they would come to the island and they will interview applicants. So then accept the refugee to go to their country, and we got refused. We didn't get to get accepted by any delegation, American, Australian, Canadian, because it's so many of us, 7 of us altogether.
Right.
And talking about this, I really want to express my gratitude. I really want to mention Judy and John Smith. John Smith is the NPP for Hamilton Mountain at that time in Hamilton.
Right.
He gathered uh, the kind people from his church, and he founded the Hamilton Mountain Fund to help the Vietnamese, the boat people.
Right.
And then he sent us postcard letters. He said that he would sponsor us. So the day that we realized that he sponsored us, like we people stay in that refugee camp for just 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Then they left the camp, but we stayed there like a year already.
So you were ready to go.
Yeah, we didn't know where to go. So I think we spent a lot of time on that island study English, I guess. So, and then we got sponsored by this organization. And when we got sponsored over, they rented us a house, a townhouse. On
So you got
east.
to stay together.
Yes, we got all
that's
stay
lovely.
together in the townhouse.
That's lovely.
Yes, and then we because 7 of us all together, so I was lucky. Myself, my older brother, the third son, third son, he he's only 1 year older than me. He's the one who navigated the boat.
Right. Right.
And my younger brother got to go to school. So I remember that meeting, family meeting. We all have family meetings because there's so many of us. My daughters asked me that question. Mom, it's amazing that you have family meetings. I said, yes, we often have family meetings. And I remember
Because there's so many of you.
Yeah, we carried that tradition to when we were first arrived in Canada. I was 7 of us. I remember in that meeting, my oldest brother gathered all of us and said, "Okay, so the three of you have to go back to school. The three of you go straight to high school, and the four older siblings would have to find work, and then we'll support the three younger ones to go to school, because with the money that they make, I think they figure out that they share the cost of rent and all that, and us
That's where mathematics comes in.
yeah. Then for me, my brothers and my younger brother, we just had to find part-time job. Yeah, so I got to go to high school. Yeah,
And learn you. Okay, so going back, you had to learn
but I got
English right
thrown.
away.
Yes, I got thrown into a high school right away.
Yeah.
There were two high school, or I think one high school in downtown Hamilton that had English as a second language.
Right.
But somehow when my oldest brother took us to see this man at the educational center, I remember we were sitting there. He asked us so many questions, and so we tried to answer. We tried to impress him with our English, and it turned out that it's against us.
You ended up at the English school, right?
Yes, I look back, and I thought that if we just play dumb, we probably got to go to an English as a second language school, and then we would have met many other Vietnamese friends and all that. And then I said, okay, you guys will go to a school where near you live. So you just have to walk to school. So I live on East 27th Street, and I walked 20 minutes to Hill Park Secondary School. So three of us got to go to Hill Park Secondary School, and I remember I didn't understand anything. I was in grade 9 English, because then I remember the guidance counselor put me in grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12 English, even though I was put in grade 12. But I had to take grade 9 English
to learn.
Yes, and then I had to learn Shakespeare too.
Well, because if you weren't speaking, you were definitely not writing, right? In English.
But you know,
and that's a lot to learn all at once.
Yeah, but I think we were disciplined into it. We got the discipline built inside us. So I think we all the brothers, sisters, I remember we study like crazy. We study together.
Yeah, you had each other to do that with too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that makes sense. And so close because you had these experiences together.
Yeah, so that's 3 years. So I remember grade 12, grade 13. Back then it was grade 13.
Right.
Yeah, and then so when I fill out the application to go to university, we had to be realistic about our choices. So we had to be like taking the program where we can find a job right after.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, my brothers are in engineer, and then me, I think they I got put into science, and I wish I could major in writing back then. Or to be trained in creative writing.
But you can't, yeah.
I feel that I face a limitation of choices that I could make.
Well, no, it's true. But then also there are a lot of English literature majors out there who do not find jobs right afterwards.
Oh, yeah. So then back then it was definitely not a choice. Yeah.
not in any kind of practicality, no.
Yes. Yeah. So
I have to apologize to all the English literature majors out there. I'm with you. I understand the interest. I just, think teaching school afterwards is probably an option you should look into. Okay.
But yeah, but you know what? On the other side, on the other side, I think the time that you sometimes is a privilege to learn whatever you are interested in without even thinking what the future will bring, right? Because
Yes, no, you're
you
not
only have
doing.
that you only have that time in your life in order to fulfill what you really want to learn, what you want to study. So then I think whatever whoever learn English literature, all of that,
No, it's a blessing
yeah, it's a blessing. Yeah, it's a blessing.
to
And
have
I
that
think,
time.
yeah, with blessing, then I think the future, the job will come. Difficulties we have to face, but I think
Well, you
there's
make the
always,
decisions that fit in with the capabilities of what you've accomplished, right? So
yes,
you make it work because you don't have much choice in life, and you find something that works along with it, and you alter your expectations. But you guys didn't have anything to fall back on. It was just you.
yes. And then it's, I think, can I share one thing? The one thing that I think is the hardest to overcome is the culture. Yeah, it's adapting to the new culture. I feel that I still have to learn now, and I learn a lot from my children.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That makes. Well, what would you say is the biggest difference?
Mm, the
I don't want to put you on the spot. I just was because
oh
I think you're
the
fitting in just fine.
yeah, the difference is I think is for me it's more like because I came back then the first few years back then it was hard because you came from the country of war, and then you experience the aftermath of war, and you had to escape that aftermath in order to find freedom.
And so then you're all of
Yeah,
a sudden in this world where that doesn't exist at all. Nobody
yes,
understands that background.
and then I think freedom is the privilege, is the most precious thing in the world, and I don't want to take advantage of it. I want to I feel it, and I want to embrace it, right? So, and having the freedom, giving the opportunity for us to do whatever we want beyond our imagination, and so that's why we use that to try harder.
No, and
To
you
master
all
what we
ran
really
with
want.
it. You all did your thing and found your way.
Yeah. So to me, because in the the different in our culture is that we here it's just given. It's just like a natural. It's like natural. So, but in our
So you're
culture, we have
saying that
yes,
I'm not putting words in your mouth. I will take full responsibility of that. That we may not be as appreciative of what we have as someone coming from your situation might be.
I,
She's not going to say that. Oh, I'm going to say that. After reading this book, I've always had an appreciation of freedom because I think it's the most important thing in the world.
yes.
The ability to say what we want to say in the
No, I
moment.
mean people here are more open-minded. Open-minded,
Oh, because
relaxing.
it's not, and you don't
Yes,
have to remain so quiet and be afraid.
yes, yeah. So, and then the determination is the opportunity uh, are so open, are so rich.
Yeah,
So,
though the opportunities. So you know what?
yes,
You're seeing us in way more positive light than I'm seeing us, Jolie. I I read your story and I see what you've done, and I just think, oh my gosh, so much waste, so much waste. I could have embraced. But, like you said, even in the escape, every story is different and has its own level of its own darkness, perhaps, right?
Yeah. So back then, I think I found a lot of confusion, and I can share with you this that I definitely want to share. The most difficult thing for me is to understand the slang. Yes, I think I had a hard time learning the language. Now it's a slang,
It's you
right?
know what? It's
Yes.
changing every day. I have to look up words in the Urban Dictionary now because I'm not sure what they mean anymore. So it's
Right.
not just you.
So sometimes I have to. So sometimes I just I just stay silent. Like, I don't know what to answer, so I just keep my mouth. Like I just don't want to say anything else. Like keep silent, And I thought,
Well, that's
okay,
the math person in you.
yeah,
And
and
the
then
writer's like, I will invent a word and a meaning.
yeah,
So yeah, the safety, but I trust me, slang is just changing every day, and it all has new meanings. And like I said, I gotta look up 2 or 3 words a week in the dictionary. And I think, what do people who never go on the internet do? They have no idea what's going on with words. So yes, so you there is your story, and you have forged out your own happy ending, right? And
yeah,
it's so impressive. You are
really.
such an impressive, and you are such a Jolie, like just happiness and hope, and and you're a wonderful thing. So I'm looking back over these things, and um I think that, what am I missing here? Did you want to talk about your choice in publishing and how that process worked for you? Because we know there's many different ways to publish now.
Um, yeah, so if we talk about that, then I have to go back to the process. So
Okay, we
yeah,
can we can do that.
when I wrote the book, I just wrote because
Right.
this
So
book
you just got the
had been
ideas out
yeah,
and you
it
just
had
wrote it, which is
been
the best thing to do. So
yeah.
you
I never thought that I would publish it. I never thought that I would publish a book. I thought it's probably just stay within our family,
a
and
personal
then
memoir kind of
yes,
thing.
and then all my nephews, my nieces, my in-laws would get a book to keep. However, after I thought about that, I think I realized my father's legacy is respected and valued.
Mm-hmm.
His sacrifice, his life, reminded us to be humble and appreciative of what we have in our life.
Right, and
And
everyone can use that.
I want the next generation of our family, of my family, the Hoang family, to learn about their root. And in learning about their grandfather, they will understand more about their parents, right? So
Mm-hmm,
we are the
mm-hmm.
second generation now. So or we are the first generation of the both people, and they are the second generation of the both people, and their parents was once refugee. Label the Vietnamese the both people is part of a history of Vietnam, and I think Anchorless is a story that ties to a history of a decade of human displacement
And
about the
how
Vietnamese. Yes, and I want to provoke that curiosity in the
and
next
you
generation.
did.
Yeah.
Like I said,
And
I didn't understand that world until I read your book.
then they need to read about this and agree to
Mm-hmm.
understand the important piece of history of Vietnam. Because Vietnam is not just a history of war. There's a
No, no.
decade after war, what happened after the war as well. And then the aftermath of it, the after effect of it. And then and from that, they perhaps reflect on how freedom and security in life was achieved not through by given, but by risking life and with tremendous sacrifice. And I honestly, I really proud of my brothers, my older brother, all my brothers and sisters, my children, my niece and nephew. And I wanted to remind them that in our DNA, we are a part of our father, their grandfathers. Each of us carry his characters inside each of us. And when another purpose of publishing this book, because I have to put it in the writer point of view, okay, in my imaginative mind, because I think if my father, if he was still alive and lived in this country, either Canada or America, he would want to travel the world.
Right.
Yeah. And why I see his image on the book listed on Amazon, on Chapter Indigo, on Barnes and Noble.
He
And
has
I
traveled
read,
the world.
yeah, I read the distribution data. It showed the book is listed in Europe, in England, Japan, South Korea, India, Australia. I could not help but think my father virtually travels the world right now. Even
You're going to make me cry again.
yes, my older brother, he said, I remember the other day we were talking on the phone and he was telling me this. Oh, I opened Amazon and our father is there. Yeah, and he's traveling everywhere now. So my brother realized that too. So then, in my imagination, I visualize that his soul is present in different continents of the earth, right? So that thought gives me comfort. And I hope in a way I contributed to fulfilling his wish, his dream, his vision that he set out, that he wanted his children, his family to live in a Western country.
I think he would be very proud.
That one of the purpose that I decided at the end that I said I had to publish. And plus, the practical part of it is I remember my father used to say to us, when you set out to do something, you have to start from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. You don't leave half in between, okay? So I think my
so brother, the end would be to publish it.
Yes,
it would always be in your mind.
Yes, it's like naturally in the mind. So then after publishing it, I thought about this a lot because it's a personal story of a family. But I think I want to be part of the history of the Vietnamese, the Boat people.
Of an understanding of the whys and the importance of finding freedom for you.
Yes, and there's cost in everything. Like
it makes you now, right? It makes you individuals. It doesn't make you the boat people. It makes you Jolie and Jolie's story as part of that, right? We can't fluff it off because we know you now.
And my children, and the next generation of the boat people, like our children, my nieces, my nephew, and the second generation of the boat people. Mm-hmm. I wanted them to realize that the freedom comes with a cost. So whether it is, and the cost is sometimes it costs lives.
Give that freedom to others.
On our expectation, like the cost affect the lives, but then we lived on. We still we try to we try to get a good life for our children, and we have to overcome all the difficulties.
Oh, well, that's what it's always about. It's always been about that search for making things better for our children.
Yeah, because I look at my parents. Their generation was in the War of Vietnam, and they had to navigate a big family through war, and protected their children, did the best for their children.
Right, because they got married just a couple years after the war started, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, no, it's an incredible story. It puts a personal touch on something that we just see in textbooks or through a screen that we didn't understand because we were younger ourselves. And I admire you for writing and the strength that it took that, and indeed to live the life that you've lived in, and then even try something new like writing. So you've got the bug now. What's next, Jolie?
Um, what's next is the I want to share that I found a passion in writing. Like I probably mentioned this already.
Yeah, no, you love it. You love
I
it.
wish, when I look back, I wish I could major in creative writing so I could do a better job. You
You just
know,
want to throw that math away now and just let your mind dance wildly, right?
I think I think it's karma something. I got tied to the math. I don't think I can never get away from the math. I do love mathematics. I have to say that. If any of my students hear this conversation, I have to. I admit that I
She
love
loves
mathematics
math and it
for
has kept you
years.
grounded all of these
Yes,
years.
yes, and I just found a new passion now. Um, I Another way of expression, another way of
Seeing the world.
put our imagination onto paper. So I will continue writing. I want to continue to write, and
And you have something else
I
in
thought
process?
about writing. I thought about writing my own escape trip.
Yeah, I think you should.
Honestly, I already wrote half of it, half of the book already, and I even named it "Freedom Across the Ocean."
Ooh.
And I don't know if I'm going to finish it. I'm not sure.
You know what? This is the thing. You can set that aside and start a new project completely different and then come back of it. Like I said, authors do crazy things.
Yeah. But I want to go beyond that. I want to get away from my family a bit. So I thought maybe we put it aside for now.
And go
And then
strictly fiction?
yes, and I want to write a fiction. And I'm working on it, and
Oh, what's that one about?
that one is about my generation. about no,
Watch what you say because it's my
I just said
generation.
about that I shouldn't be talking about my family, but I want the story is surrounding the after effect of having everything that we wanted already, being a refugee, came to this country, established life for ourselves. But there will be time that we had everything, and we look back, and we 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 look back at our past, right? We look back at the escape trip and how it affected us. Like I knew that I felt the loss in me. I felt sorry for the grief that I couldn't get over. But because I was so busy with studying, with having
No, you
family,
don't have time during those
I
middle
don't have time,
years.
and then I forget, right?
Yeah,
But then there will be time when we are older that we just want to look at the past.
we
And
start to think about it again
yes,
because we
and I
have time.
compare my trip to others Vietnamese boat people. Their trip is totally different from mine.
So this is a
I,
fiction telling?
yes, the fiction telling about how three women who got to uh, thrown into living as a family uh, uh, under circumstances that are very unexpected. But then in that process, they found out about each other suffering, each other's past,
Right.
what they had to go through in order to have the life that they have. So the book is about that.
Which is a great topic, because there's so many of us in that age group that
yes,
is looking back. And those,
now that I reviewed it to you, and it will be in public, so I better get started. Not get started. I better
I
finish
won't
it.
hold you to it.
Yeah,
I understand how these
because
things go, but it sounds like a really good premise.
you know, when you write a book, you keep on writing. I just write pieces and pieces and just left it. Pieces and left it. Now we just have to pull all those pieces together.
Which
Just
means
like
another trip to St. John's.
I think so. I think so. I will. I will. I love Cape Spear. I love Crystal Cove. I remember my daughter and we just sat, our daughters, we just sat at Cape Spear for hours looking at the ocean. It's so beautiful, you know, where the mountain meet the ocean.
And
So
it took you a while to be able to appreciate the ocean, right?
yes, and then
So it makes it even more poignant
before
for you.
I didn't have a good feeling looking at the ocean, you know. It reminded me of bad, of bad experiences and sad. But now I appreciate the scenery. I had to learn to forget it, to forget the pain, and right on that spot, at that very spot where the mountain meet the ocean, that was able to write a few passage in the book about the ocean, and
See, I
about
love that
feeling,
passage.
about loneliness, and about agony.
Yeah, no, at the end of the chapter letting go, right?
Yes.
No. Yeah, no wait, it's the but it's at the end of the book, and it's a beautiful passage. It's one of my favorite passages in the book, under author's notes, about how you learn to love the ocean again through your children's laughter, and
Thank you.
it's beautiful. So you have to go through read the whole book in order to get to the author's notes. Don't skip ahead like I'm known to do with books. So I go back and read them again, Jolie. It's okay. I just sometimes get impatient with what's going to happen. So, where is the best place to find Anchorless?
I chapter Indigo online, and also Amazon.ca. I think if you go to my website, it lists all the distribution channel.
Okay, so the link to your website is, and I'll put it in writing, but just let people know that are listening.
Yes, www.joliehoang.com.
Okay, all right, and they'll find.
So the author name Jolie Hoang, I put a P in between, but the website I just put Jolie Hoang. Yeah.
Okay. So on the book itself, if you're searching for it in Amazon, it's
just
Jolie
P.
Hoang.
Anchorless. They put Anchorless Jolie P. Hoang.
Okay. And now I will have that on the site and on the different cards.
Back in May and in June, I had two events, like author signing right at chapters. That means the store will they would order the books into the store.
If you sold so many, they order the books into the store.
Yes, and then I got to got invited, like to be there. They would order the book into the store to sign, and but then because of the lockdown, everything got canceled.
Yes,
so I think it's best that just to order online.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not making any plans. We've put you on hold since March 14th because we wanted to be able to do it in studio. But yeah, you just got to live in the moment right now
Yeah.
with what you have. So, so the best places, we'll put that up, and of course, Amazon, as always, and Indigo chapters online and other places. You promised to read the poem from
Yes. Yeah.
Anchorless?
I will read the poems. The best gift.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. My hands last tremble in the dark, cruel wave, sinking my lifeless body. But I felt I could fly. Had night passed? Why did morning come so fast? Darkness came, but light chased it away. I closed my eyes, but I could only see the bright light. Death arriving and life departing. Entering heaven, yet defying. Farewell, my loved ones. Forgive me for leaving you all too soon. Forget me, please. It is your best gift, given to the living and to the dead.
Beautiful. You do amazing things for someone who didn't want to write in English, Jolie. That was beautiful. So I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. I'm sure it's one we're not going to forget for a while.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Anytime. And remember that song date.
Yes, and then I have to keep up with my word about the next book.
Yes, once you announce it publicly, you can't turn back. I will be waiting for that book.
Yes.
So, no. I'm not pressuring
Yeah, I
you.
think sometimes it's part of that too. We need to do that. We need to declare it, and then we have to follow it.
Thank you, Jolie, for sharing your time, story, and incredible wisdom. And yes, I'm going to remember that story, not only because it reminds me of the courage and resilience possessed by those who have lived such realities, but also because it reminds me that our own tales remain as part of us. They leave their marks and their signs, much like the fading anchor on Jolie's father's shoulder. We choose what we do with those signs. Jolie has chosen to share hers, and in doing so, has found a new passion in writing. I look forward to more of her work. Thank you for listening, and until our next Fika, may your coffee be hot, and even if your stories aren't sweet, immediately ready to share, know that someday, like Jolie's, their sharpness may acquire the smoothness of sea glass, treasures bringing hope to others. Stay well, everyone.